Good morning. My name is Ann Muirhead. I am here from Mass Edco, and I work in Claremont High School, Claremont Academy. I'm new to Claremont this year. I have spent the past 5 years working with the crew at Doherty High, so I know students in both schools at this point. The presentation this morning is on reining in the cost of college, and this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. I love to share tips on how to cut the costs. This presentation is based on a presentation I typically do for students toward the end of junior year, so they keep these tips in mind as they go into the college application season. So as students start to apply to college, they will find they are admitted. They will find that they are eligible to get a lot of financial aid, but they will also find that colleges do not have to give them the aid that they need to go to college. So what I would like to do is help you figure out some steps that you can take as you apply, so you set yourself up to have a financial aid package that works for your family. So the first thing I want to talk about is the public university system. So public colleges and universities are funded in part by the state of Massachusetts, by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and they are also overseen by the state. So when we look at the public university system, we see a price range. So I'd like you to look at those tuition and fees. It costs between $6,500 and $17,000 per year. That's tuition and fees before you have gotten any financial aid. That's to attend a public college or university, and that is for full-time attendance. I want to compare that to private colleges and universities. So private colleges and universities are not run by the state. They are not overseen by the state in the same type of way, although they are accredited. They are nonprofits. They tend to have some scholarship money to give out, but they also have much higher tuition and fees. So you can see the tuition and fees at private colleges and universities tend to range between $42,000 and $57,000. So that is a lot of money. So when you look at those two types of colleges, my tip number one is make sure that you have some public colleges and universities on your list. Even if a private college or university is generous, it is hard to catch a public university in terms of offering enough money so you can actually go to the school. There is a third type of institution I'd like to mention just very briefly, and that is the proprietary institution. And those are actually businesses. They're not nonprofits. So you might see some of those institutions in, let's say, the like hair cutting industry. There can be some colleges with those names, like Phoenix, was it University? I don't know if they're still around. Trump University would have fallen into that category. That is something that I want to caution you to stay away from, because those are not the nonprofits. If you are unsure whether you're dealing with a public college, a private college, or some other type, look at collegescorecard.ed.gov. The website is at the bottom of the page, and that will help you figure out what you're dealing with.
And I just want to remind students too that with the proprietary schools, because they are businesses, they don't have a lot or don't spend a lot on financial aid. So you are relying primarily on student loans at proprietary schools, unlike private schools and public schools.
Yes, thank you. Very good point. The second big point I want to make on this page is possibly being a commuter. So when you look at the housing and meal costs, if you're looking at public universities, the cost of living on campus is going to add 12 to 14,000 to your bill. At a private college or university, it will add 15 to 20,000. So you might get a little bit more financial aid. Sometimes there will be certain grants for housing, but on the whole, it is going to be more expensive. Very often I work with students who, looking at public colleges in Worcester and in other parts of the state, find that if they decide to go to college in Worcester, they can do it without loans if they are willing to commute. So that's another good tip to keep in mind if you want to bring the cost down. Are there questions about this before I move on? Okay. So next is my map of the Massachusetts public higher education system. And I love this map. Massachusetts, in my opinion, has one of the best public education systems in the country. So our public education system is made up of three different types of schools. First, we have the UMass system. So as you look at Worcester in the middle of the map, you will see it mentions a UMass there. That is the medical school. So that is for graduate school. It is not for us at this point, but you will have UMass Amherst, UMass Lowell, UMass Boston, and UMass Dartmouth that you can consider. We have the state university system. So that is Worcester State, Framingham State, Fitchburg State. So usually state is in the name. MCLA is also part of that, Mass College of Liberal Arts, which is out in Western Mass. Mass Maritime is part of that, as is Mass Art. And then we have 15 community colleges in the system. So when you look at Worcester, you'll see that we have a community college, a state university, and we do have the UMass Grad School. If you can include some of these, at least one of the public universities, I think it might give you a financial backup. Let me point out that just because these schools are financial backups does not mean they are lesser. These are outstanding schools, and there are times I find students struggle to get into the public system and they get the private more easily. And most students are choosing the public system in the end because of the excellence of the education and because of the price. So the next thing I want you to think about is knowing the options. And by that, I mean, think about what type of degree you need. Sometimes students start out thinking, okay, it has to be a 4-year degree. And then as they start to do their research, they find, oh, actually, the degree I want, the degree that will prepare me for my field of choice is a 2-year degree. So Quinsig has a lot of different options, and I think until you start to work with their website and jump into what they have, you're not always aware of what is there. So the first thing I'll talk about are the associate degrees for work. So they have many, many 2-year programs that will get you working. So if you came to me and said, I want to be a nurse, you could get there with a degree from Quinsig, the 2-year degree from Quinsig. If you say, I want something in healthcare, I'm not sure what, well, radiologic tech, surgical tech, respiratory, I think it's respiratory care specialist, occupational therapy assistant. All of those are jobs that pay well, that you will find at a community college that you will not find at a 4-year college, with the exception of nursing. Nursing, of course, you will find at a 4-year college. So think about whether the associate's degree is right for you. And you will find the 2-year degrees in many different fields. The second thing is the associate's degree for transfer. So many students start at Quinsig and then transfer on to 4-year colleges. And it is a wonderful way to save a lot of money on the first 2 years of first 2 years of college. All of the public universities in Massachusetts have transfer agreements with Quinsig, so it can be done very easily. There are also private colleges and universities that have transfer agreements. So right in Worcester, if you're interested in WPI, you can do the first 2 years at Quinsig, and then you go on, and I believe you'd have to do 2.5 at WPI. They typically take more classes per year than students at Quinsig, so that's how you get the extra half year, but that can be done in engineering, that can be done in science, that can be done in computer science. So it is it's a wonderful way to save on that degree. There are also degrees, agreements with Assumption, Clark, Nichols, and even if a school does not have a transfer agreement, you can always apply in to transfer. So keep that in mind.
Hey,
We have
Ann,
a
I'm not sure.
question.
Yep, I
Oh,
was just about to review. I was just
yeah,
about
so
to.
we have a question. A lot of students choose to go out of state to out of state public schools. For example, UConn, URI, instead of one of the universities in the UMass system. Can you explain why this can pose economic challenges?
If somebody leaves the state. So I do have some information on the public universities in other states on a different page. So if we could wait a little,
Okay, thank you.
I'll talk about it at that point. Is there another question with this piece?
That's the only one so far. Thank you.
Okay, next, one-year certificates. So there are many one-year certificates that you can get and start working. So accounting, logistics, medical assisting, engineering, tech, and a lot of those degrees are stackable, which means that if you do that first year, you get your certificate. If you do a second year, you actually get an associate's degree. So they set it up very nicely there. Finally, QCC has the Center for Workforce Development, and that offers a lot of short-term career training options in healthcare, technical trades. Let's say you wanted to be an interpreter in a hospital and a courtroom. There's training that you can get for those jobs, and it gets you working, and it helps you earn a lot more money and get into a better field than you can get into if you don't do anything. So another thing I want to mention with QCC is that they have a wonderful range of academic options. So when you look at any of these areas, take the first one, business, for example, you will find that they have certificate options, they have associate degree options, and they will have the transfer options. And that goes for, I think, all of the fields there. So spend some time on the website, and I think there is something there for most folks, and I think you can get any place you want to go educationally starting at QCC. So the other thing I want to focus on a little bit more is the transfer option from QCC. So there is a website called the Mass Transfer website, and they give you information about starting at QCC or starting at a community college and transferring elsewhere. So with the tool that's on the page, I was able to say, okay, I want to start at QCC and I want to finish at Worcester State. And they showed me the different options. So the Commonwealth commitment option, the one at the bottom, is the one that saves you the most money. So that will allow you to get a 4-year degree for, at this point, this year, $29,971. So it comes in a little below $30,000, as opposed to the almost $48,000. So that is a tremendous savings. There are other transfer programs as well. With the mass transfer, there are certain rules that you have to follow. You have to move along at a certain rate. So that might not be the right one for you, but that is a great way to do it. The beauty of that is graduating without loans, and it is very possible. Are there questions on this? I want to say that I think it wasn't last year because we weren't in college. We weren't in school at the end of the year. The year before, I gave this presentation to a junior. The junior told the parent emailed the guidance counselor to say, is this so? And the guidance counselor contacted me and said, is that right? Is it possible to do that, get that degree for that amount? And I sent the information on. So it's really quite a find.
Yeah, I just want to remind students that with the transfer programs at the community college, they have to make the commitment by the end of their first year at QCC. So you would need to go to the transfer counselor at Quinsig to tell them that you want to do that and start the paperwork before the end of your first year at Quinsig.
Yes. The other thing is they advise you on which classes you need to take in order to be able to transfer in your major and be prepared on the other side. So Rochelle, this deals with the out-of-state tuition. that you pay when you leave Massachusetts. So every state has its own public university system. And when you go out of state, you're typically dealing with the out of state rate as opposed to the in-state rate. When you're dealing with privates, there's no out of state and in-state rate. Everyone is starting with the same thing. But with the publics, that is a big issue. So there is a wonderful program called Tuition Break, and it's run by the New England Board of Higher Education. And what it does is it allows students to leave their home state and go into the other New England states. So for us, that's Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. And to choose a major from an approved list. And if you choose a major that is on that list, you get a reduction in tuition. So the average savings, according to the New England Tuition Break website for Massachusetts residents, going into other states is $8,100 per year for choosing a major on the approved list. So if you happen to be looking at one of the colleges or universities, public ones in the other New England states, certainly check that list. I want to give you an example that has come up more than once with students. I have been working a few times with students who have looked at UConn, and the tuition and fees at UConn for out-of-state residents is about $37,000. So that doesn't include the room and board. So by the time you add the room and board, you're into the 50s. So it's a lot of money. If you can choose a major on their list, then it brings the tuition and fees down to $23,000. So that is about the biggest drop I have seen. That's over $13,000, almost $14,000 reduction in the tuition and fees. Different schools manage this program in different ways. If you're dealing with UConn, you have to deal with the admissions office and tell them that you want a seat in that program because they give a limited number of seats. And if that particular program is full, then you can go down the list and say, okay, do you have an opening in this other program? And you can get your program that way. Some schools don't set aside a certain number of seats, and as long as you have a major on the list, then you're all set. But this is certainly something to be aware of, and it also applies for graduate school.
And I just wanted to mention two things. I have a sister who went to UConn through the tuition break for her master's degree. The approved lists are programs that aren't offered in your home state. So her major for her graduate degree was Latin American and Caribbean Studies. There's no program like that in Massachusetts, so she was able to get the tuition break. And on the undergraduate level, if you are eligible for a Mass State scholarship, there is a reciprocal program for state scholarships among the New England states. So if you receive a Mass State scholarship and you go to UConn, you can bring that scholarship with you to UConn. And vice versa. A student from Connecticut who received a Connecticut state scholarship that goes to a Mass State college or university would be able to bring their state scholarship. So you're not losing your state financial aid. You're getting a reduction in tuition and you're keeping your state financial aid.
That is a wonderful tip, Sharon. Rochelle, did that answer, from what you can tell, the questions that people had about that?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Then onward. So there are some other tuition break programs that colleges in the region have offered, separate from the New England tuition break. Rhode Island College has been offering us something called our Northeast Neighbor reduction in tuition and fees, and it brings it down. So it's just about $4,000 more than Worcester State. So it's a very good deal. It's not very far away. It's only about an hour And they have many majors, and they have some things that are not offered here locally. So it's certainly worth a look. The other university that has gone out of the way to attract Massachusetts students is the University of Maine at Orono, which is their flagship institution. It's the main one, just like UMass Amherst would be here. And they have a financial aid award that is supposed to bring their cost down to the cost of attending UMass for students. So certainly that is something to look at, and they have some good deals there. So next thing I want to talk about is more about the community college system. So in Worcester, we tend to look at QCC a lot, and with reason, but you will find sometimes they don't have the program that you want. And if they don't have the program that you want, keep in mind that there are other community colleges in Massachusetts within driving distance. So Mass Bay is not that far, Middlesex Community College is not that far, and Mount Wachusett. And if you're going to the west, Stick and Springfield. So those are a few to keep in mind. I know Mount Wachusett Community College has some pre-healthcare academy programs that students I have worked with have applied to in the past. It's been a nice way to get into nursing or dental hygiene or physical therapy assisting without the wait that you might have. It's a competitive program. You apply in. They don't take everybody into that pre-healthcare academy. So it's something to consider if you don't have a nursing program that is affordable. Let's say you haven't gotten one through the other public colleges and universities in Massachusetts. You've gotten some private ones that haven't met your need. That's a good thing to keep in mind. The other thing I want people to think about with the community college system is that the community colleges in Maine have housing. And sometimes I work with a student who needs housing for some reason. So I believe all of the community colleges in Maine have housing, unlike any of the community colleges here. On the screen, I have Southern Maine Community College. So the cost of tuition and fees and room and board there is about, is a little over 16,250. So it is a very good deal. They also do have some programs that are not offered at QCC, and they also have a whole range of transfer options. So that might be something to keep in mind. So the next tip has to do with something called merit aid. So most students know about need-based aid. Need-based aid is the financial aid that you get through filing the FAFSA, through filing the CSS profile, and it's based on your family's financial aid, your family's financial situation. Merit aid is based on your personal qualifications. So it could be based on the fact that you are a strong student, the fact that you're an athlete, the fact that you have some particular talent, some particular skill, and that's called merit aid. Merit aid is offered through the admissions office, and students are typically notified about merit aid with their offer of admission. So not every college has this. When you are applying, look for colleges with merit aid and try to add some of those to your list. If you don't get the amount that you need from the financial aid office, that merit aid can give you a nice boost toward being able to go there. Are there questions on that? No, okay. So the next tip, a few different things. So if you bring in credits, you can actually shorten your stay if you bring in enough credits. So most students know about AP credits. And if you haven't taken an AP class, it is too late to join into the AP class. If you are taking an AP class, the thing to do is work hard on that AP exam and try to get a 4 or a 5. Typically, if you have a 4 or a 5 on the exam, you can bring those credits into the college or university, and that is 1 or 2 or 3 classes possibly that you don't have to take. Second, the early college or dual enrollment classes. So perhaps you've done some of these and they might already be on the transcript and you might be able to bring those into the college. If you haven't done any yet, it is not too late. There will be early college classes that you can take during the second semester, so the second half of the school year, and then you can also take them during the first summer session. So keep that in mind, and you might be able to collect some credits that way. The third tip is something that most students don't know about, and this is my favorite tip on this page. There is something called the College Level Examination Program, and it is run by the College Board. And the College Level Examination Program is called people call them CLEP tests. So if you pass a CLEP test, you get to bring credits in. So what I would like to do is focus on Worcester State as an example. So if you were interested in figuring out if you could test out of classes, you would look on the college website and you would find information on whether the college accepts CLEP tests, and if they do, what you can test in. So looking at Worcester State, they take 38 CLEP tests that they will allow you to bring into the university, and you can bring in up to 60 credits. So do you know how many credits are needed for a degree? 120. So that's half. You can do half of the credits through CLEP tests. So the list was long, so I looked at the website and typed up some of them that I thought maybe people would be interested in taking. So I know some of the high schools have a marketing class. If you sit for that Principles of Marketing exam and you earn a 50, then you would place out of BA 138 and you bring in 3 credits. Let's look at Spanish language. Let's see, I think I have to move the picture of myself to the other side of the screen. It was hiding things. So Spanish language, if you do Spanish language 2 and earn a 63, you can bring in 12 credits. If you do biology and earn a 50, you can bring in 6 credits. So this is a wonderful way to save money on college. Now, the thing with the CLEP tests is there is a fee for sitting for each exam. It tends to cost about 100 per exam. So the sitting fee, the test itself is about 89. The college usually has a sitting fee. So we have a wonderful nonprofit that helps students get a workaround so they can do this for free. And this nonprofit is called Modern States. modernstates.org. And if you decide to use this system, it means that you can complete 2 years of college credits without having to pay for those exams. So step 1 would be look to see if your college takes the CLEP test. So I can tell you that all of the public universities and colleges in Massachusetts take the CLEP test. A lot of the privates do not. The more competitive the school, the less likely it is that they take the CLEP test. Some of the less competitive privates take the CLEP test. So once you have decided where you're going, or you're weighing your options, this might be something to put into that calculation. Do they take the CLEP test? Because I like the idea that I can save a lot of money doing this. So let's say you're dealing with UMass Amherst, Worcester State, whatever it is. You look to see which exams they will accept. You visit modernstates.org and you are going to sign up. So you create an account. They ask you to choose which course you are going to take. And what they ask you to do is use the module that they've put together. So you need to watch the videos, do some practice questions. They are actually going to pay the fee for you, so they don't want you to just take it cold without doing any preparation, which is why you do this. And then you, once you've completed that, you request a CLEP voucher. You register for the exam. You use the voucher as payment. In some places, you might need to put the payment out and then you submit for reimbursement. Even if you do not pass the exam, you are still reimbursed by modern states, and you are allowed to take this more than once. In terms of bringing the credits in, then you deal with the registrar's office, and these are considered transfer credits. Are there questions on this? I think this is one of the best tips I've found. A few other strategies to reduce the cost of college, and one is to continue to look for scholarships. In my experience, the financial aid office in a college keeps a list, often a very good list, and that is a wonderful resource to look to find more scholarships for yourself. The second is applying for a job on campus as a resident assistant. So a resident assistant is a student who lives in the dorm. They are in some ways a liaison between the students and the administration. It's part of your job to make that dorm a safe and comfortable place for students to live. It may involve enforcing some rules, so you might not like that piece, but it is a job that comes with typically free room and board. So we looked at those room and board costs, and we saw with public universities, 12 to 14,000. Privates, I would say just a little bit higher, maybe the 14 to 20. And if your college offers room and board, that is a tremendous way to save money and live on campus. So you need to plan ahead if you were interested in this. You will apply for this, I would say, toward the spring of freshman year for the following year. And they will be looking for someone who has been a good citizen on campus, meaning that you haven't gotten yourself into any trouble and you have done well academically. So keep that opportunity in mind. The third tip is that colleges sometimes give free or reduced tuition to employees that might apply if you have a parent that works in a college. It might apply to you if you work in a college. So it may be a long-term plan, but keep that in mind. Are there questions on any of those things? Sharon, did you have something to add? You're muted. Still
Sharon,
muted.
you're muted.
Yeah. I wanted to add that even if you don't qualify for work study, check with, especially at the larger universities, the student employment office, there may be non-financial aid work available. Sometimes colleges have their own work study. Sometimes they have non-work study jobs that are open to students as well. So that'd be another way of earning some money to pay towards your tuition and fees or books and supplies.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's usually like the bookstore, sometimes the cafeteria,
Right.
the student
Li-
ambassadors that give tours. Those are usually
Library.
non-work study jobs.
Libraries, right, things like that nature.
Yes. All right. Moving on from there. So I talk to students who sometimes say, you know, even if I get the money for college, I've got other issues and I need to work. I can't afford the cost of being a student the whole time. There are other considerations, my family, or I support myself, or students that say, I need housing, I can't do this. So we can help you come up with a short-term plan that will have you working toward your long-term goals. So we understand that one size does not fit all, and we can tailor this to, we can tailor our advice and your plans to whatever you need. So one strategy, assuming you work out the job piece, and I'll talk about that more in a minute, is going to school at night. So you can go to school at night and it can be significantly cheaper. So I'll start with QCC. It's in the middle of the page. QCC can always be done part-time. When you go to QCC, you register by the class, you're billed by the class, by the credit, so that's fine. Worcester State has a fantastic program at night. It's part of the continuing education program. They have 11 bachelor's degrees in the evening. Looking at the website, it says 130 per credit. And then I was so disappointed when I contacted financial aid to find out how it worked, and learned there were a bunch of fees that would bring it up to 287 per credit, but it's still a good deal. And one very important thing for our international students from our high schools to know is that they do not have an in-state and an out-of-state rate. So if you go to Worcester State at night, you would just pay that 287 per credit. If you go during the day and you are considered international, you're paying the out-of-state rate. If you go to QCC and you're considered international, you're paying the out-of-state rate. So keep this in mind for the in-state rate. You can bring in, I believe it is again about half your credit. So it's a very affordable way to get a degree from Worcester State. It is less expensive than the day program. Clark University also has a continuing ed program. They have 6 bachelor's degrees at night, 32 courses, 2,000 per course. So they have 4 credit classes there. So I think that's about 64,000 for their degree, and that would be before financial aid. And of course, you can also bring a lot of credits into that. I think more than you might be able to bring in during the day. So that is also something that we can explore with you. So I'd just like to give you a little bit of an overview of the types of degrees they offer at night. They offer a good range at night. They don't offer everything, but they do have nice options. Okay, so in terms of working, let's say that you do want to work while you need to work after high school, and you can't simply stop working so you can go to college. So number one, Job Corps. If you say to me, listen, I need the whole thing. I need housing, I need healthcare, I don't have a license, I don't know how I'm going to pay for my books, I don't know how I am going to get the tools that I need. Job Corps will give you that full package. It covers everything. It's for people between the ages of 16 and 24. It is run by the federal government. And yes, you can go from Job Corps to college. So let me give you a field to think about. So nursing, if you wanted nursing, you could start with their I think it's a CNA program that they have there, and then you can apply into their advanced training for LPN, and then you can go from there into an RN program. You can go into a place like QCC or one of the other community colleges. They will help you. You can earn credits at Job Corps, and they will help you get positioned. So I think that is an outstanding option, and certainly we can help you with that if you would like it. In terms of work, let's say you don't need the housing, but you really would like a job that pays well. If you want to consider an apprenticeship, those jobs offer training, so you can learn on the job and have a higher salary. And for some, they might choose not to go to college after that because they've gotten the training. For others, they might say, okay, this is just my first step on the way to college, and many of the apprenticeships allow you to get some credit that you can bring into colleges. There are high-tech apprenticeships. The first one, Apprenti, is one of them, and many of the high-tech companies in the country, like IBM, take people from this program and they teach them how to code, and then they bring them on and they actually become IBM employees. TechQuest is another program, and it is, they're based at Clark at the moment, but they offer training to do more of the IT help desk type of work. There are also apprenticeships in manufacturing, construction, and we're seeing more and more in healthcare. So we can help you with that. And again, the thing I love about that is that you are earning a paycheck while you are working and learning how to do the job. So the other thing, let's say that you are, you want to go to school at night. There are a lot of short-term training options just to get you working with a better job. And some of those jobs are things that you can train for fairly quickly. So you could look at the QCC, Center for Workforce Development, and you might find a short-term training, something that takes a few months, and then you have a job that pays well while you go to school at night. Mass Hire, the career folks in Worcester, Career Central can also help with that. And then QCC, not the Center for Workforce Development, but has the college itself has programs that you can work on. The snapshot that I have on the screen is a current list from just this week that I took of free programs that are available in Worcester, and we can certainly help you with that. But those short-term training opportunities certainly help you get jobs that pay more. The very last thing is something that I added this morning because I was thinking about it, and it is that there is some wonderful tax preparation in Worcester. It is the VITA program through the Worcester Community Action Council. It stands for the Volunteer Income Tax, I think it's association, and what they do is they help families prepare their taxes. They do it for free. They are experts. It is a program where these tax preparers are certified by the IRS. The reason this is important is because I have worked with enough families that have taxes that they have paid to have, that they have paid someone to prepare, and there have been mistakes, and those mistakes impact your financial aid. So if your taxes are not done the right way, it means your FAFSA is not done the right way. It might mean that you are not getting the money that you should be getting. So please look into this program. It's run through the Worcester Community Action Council. They opened for business in January, but I highly recommend them. So I think that is the last slide I have, so I want to open this to questions if anybody has any.
I don't see any questions yet, but somebody said, oh, Job Corps is a great option. My personal experience with Job Corps works. I think it was one of our, Ms. Solchi, I believe.
I agree, yes.
And any questions? I don't see any others right now.
And I'd like to just add for students, if you do go out and get an associate's degree and then start working in your field, please check with your HR department to see if they have employee educational benefits. Many times they do, and what you do is you register for the course, pay for the course, take it, pass it with the C, and you get reimbursed. So you can just take the reimbursement money and apply for your next course and just keep doing that. It's a benefit that many employees offer.
Yeah, when I was in college, I worked at a clothing store that gave me some tuition reimbursements, and my friend worked at McDonald's that got tuition reimbursement. So I have another friend that worked, I think he worked for UPS, and he got a lot of tuition reimbursement for going to college. So it's absolutely a great option.
Yes. I know UPS has a nice program. I think it's a lot of tips, and sometimes I think people just need to sit down and start to work with the information on their own.
Right, and this is recorded, and it will be available on our YouTube channel and being sent out to all the schools later on this evening, probably post tomorrow. So you can go back through it and take notes if you missed something, and make sure that you connect with your advisors at each of the high schools, because we can help you with any of these questions if you want to work in any of these things that you saw. definitely reach out to your advisors. The name of it's Mass Ed Co, and I can put that, let me see, I'm going to try to get that into, let me see if it's going to let me. If you search, if you go to YouTube and search Mass Ed Co, which is MASSEDCO, it'll be the first thing that comes up. Let me see if I can get it into the search, into the chat for you. Recording, so sometimes it's difficult for me to maneuver into. And I think we're sending this out to the different high schools as well, so they should be sending it out as well. But let me just put this in the chat for you, because I just got the website. This is the YouTube channel, and it has all of our prior videos that webinars that we did for the seniors as well. And there's one that we did an actual forum on apprenticeships as well. So you can view any of those as well. All right, so I don't see any more questions. Any one last call for questions that we can answer now? Otherwise, we'll let you go on to, I think you have class in 10 minutes. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us. We have another, what is our next topic next week? And then we have one more that we have scheduled for now.
I think it's scholarships next week.
Scholarships next week, and we may
It's
be
Steve,
coming
I
up with some other things after the holidays. We might have some other topics as well that we'll be coming out with.
Thank you to everybody. Please get in touch with us if you have questions. And I believe this concludes our presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to stop recording.